I'm going to come to you because you're going to want to ask a couple things yourself, and I don't know what, I think we have about 25 minutes here. So I'm not unclear about this. Maestro.
Yes.
Where to dive in? Of all the things that were revealing themselves to me about this film and you and your life and your artistry, which are seemingly one and the same thing, I love the fact that at this point that the film is made and that we're here with you on this earth, your exceptionality is comfortable to you. You know what I mean by this? I know you're exceptional, and you're quite comfortable with it, and as a result, the generosity is overwhelming because it's just pouring out of you. It is as if, in an odd way, you've erased the space between music and speech, so that you're speaking basically on behalf of the music. When did you own that? When did you come to own it? Did you always know it?
No, I don't think so.
I doubt that, yes.
When I remember distinctly when I was around 15, I noticed that when my practicing went well, everything in life seemed to be harmonized by that. And when it didn't go well, I was out of sorts with people, with myself, and I realized there's a correlation between my art and life. And I remember the person who defined it more than anyone else was Ethan.
Uh-huh.
One night on the stage when we had a Q&A session.
Can you hear this?
Maybe use the mic. Is it on?
I'm worried about that.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
One night, during a Q&A session, the person who was leading it said to Ethan, "Why did you choose Seymour to make this documentary?" By the way, when Ethan approached me and said, "We're going to make a documentary on you," I was absolutely stunned. My first thought was, why is he doing this for the likes of me? There's so many more interesting pianists around. So now we're getting back to the session during the Q&A session. I think it was in Lincoln Center, actually.
That it happened.
So why did you choose Seymour to make this documentary? Well, Ethan said, before I met Seymour, I thought that life influences the way I act. But now that I met Seymour, I think acting influences my life. And that's how I'm aware of my own art. When my art expands, I feel better. It all depends on what we're speaking about when we say our art, of course. In music, we have to delve into our emotional, our intellectual, and our physical worlds. That corresponds to everything about us, doesn't it? And in acting, the same. And so Ethan sat me down with his wife at a table to telling me what he wanted to do. He said, my goal is to create a film so that I inspire especially young people to understand that a passion for an art form is not only going to develop their ability for the art form, but it will affect their lives. So, whoa, that's my philosophy. So he and I were on the same track. Then he says to me, now I know you haven't performed in public for 37 years, Do you think that you could give an hour program for my theater group? Because we don't know very much about music. Maybe talk about music. And where is White? See that White there? I turned white. He's asking me to go back to what I gave up
Yes.
so many years ago.
Yes.
And I said, now why is he doing this? And I figured, in a few seconds, this guy is probably going to stress my teaching in the documentary, and he's afraid the audience is going to say, well, those who can do, and those who can teach. And I heard myself say to him, all right, I'll do it.
Wow.
So I went home, and immediately I chose the pieces that I was going to perform.
Uh-huh.
And then I proceeded to practice 8 hours a day, just as I did for my New York debut. 'Cause you don't perform in public for 37 years. That's quite a task.
Yes, it is.
You want to know how I felt?
How did you feel?
Well, where's my friend Bill? Here's Bill. Bill was at the shoot, almost all the shooting. He can tell you everything about what was going on. There's no script.
I do know.
Everything was spontaneous.
I do know.
So now, Ethan says to me, now, don't show up at Steinway on time because we have to set up everything. Bill calls me up, he says, I'm 10 minutes late, I was gonna kill him. But he did that on purpose. He wanted to delay me
Sure.
because he was told to.
Right.
So I came to Steinway and I looked through the picture window, and the piano looked like it was enveloped in sunlight. And they were sticking mics in the piano and in the balcony and all over the hall. And I saw his actors and actresses all sitting there. And I said to myself, if I had to give this recital, that would be enough of a stress. But it's going to be filmed forever. I can't survive this. That's what I said.
And yet you
I
did.
said, I'm going to have a heart attack. Well, I'll go into Steinway and have my heart attack.
Right.
What better place to die? So I stood up straight, we're all actors, all performers are actors.
Yes.
And I put on a smile, right? And I walked into the hall. I wondered when the heart attack was going to take place. and I enveloped in my arms this man who's making all of this possible.
Right.
And I greeted him and I greeted other people, and I sat down in that chair you saw in the movie when he's introducing me. And while he's introducing me, all the tension went like a spiral. It disappeared. That's never happened to me before. What is this? Is that the beginning of my heart attack? I walked to the piano, completely calm. Now ask me how I played.
How did you play?
Well, I'm 92 now, so I don't lie anymore. That was wonderful. Now here's the thing, the interesting thing is, the next day, I contemplated this. Why did this happen? I did it for him. And I realized, when you do something for someone else, it temporarily distracts you from your own vulnerability. I was not going to let him down for the world. He must have known this when he asked me to do this. He's an amazing man.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Now, there is an intimacy here that is astonishing to behold on both parts, both of you. I'm not a musician, but I do, in a sense, as a director, some form of teaching, whatever that is, a coaxing, a dialogue with an actor or a company about how we're going to get this out. I know that, pardon me, I know that it's a very personal thing. You are gloriously unedited now. It just comes out of you. You say what you want to say. You seem to know what you want to say, and the flow is really thrilling. I also know that it's not always observable. So here comes somebody with a camera and a microphone and lights and an intention. Did you find it invasive? And were you, by the way, aware that you were treading on very thin ice? Let me start with you, because if you don't have a history of knowing how to do this, who could possibly do that better than what we just saw? No one. So what's that about?
You know, I was very aware that it was dangerous. It's a dangerous thing to do. To put especially, can you hear me? Yeah, it's working. It's working. There's so many things that are dangerous. First of all, to put someone who is offering so much love, to put them in a dangerous situation where they could disappoint themselves.
Yep. Risky.
Was very, very risky. And I was super, super apprehensive about it. But I felt when I talked to Seymour and when we were together that he really wanted this to work. And he gave me a lot. He was very prepared every day. He had things he wanted to talk about, things he spent a life teaching, so there was a lot to teach. And I thought it was worth it. And I trusted myself that if it did seem to not go, that there are ways to heal.
Yes.
That there are ways to make things, if it didn't go the way we wanted,
There's another way.
There's another way. And that the truth is very much Seymour's ally. You know, I think one of the hardest things for young people to hear is something that you led with, which is, it's very counterintuitive for some reason, but in loving yourself and believing in yourself, in owning your idiosyncrasy, you know, that you can give to others.
Yes.
And it's mysterious because you think you have to be fake, or you think there's something wrong with you, that you are concerned with yourself. And I remember my daughter's she was, I don't know, what was she, 13 or 14 then, at 15, and those kinds of statements like loving yourself are very hard for young people to hear. Even though they're so self-involved, it's incredible. She'll stare at herself all day in the mirror. But if you say, do you love yourself? No! You know, and something about who you are, you know, our actions speak louder than just who you are, teaches this thing of being aware that you're not perfect and that you're still worthy of tremendous love and can do great things. And that's a very exciting teaching.
Did you find, Seymour, the apparatus itself remotely intimidating? Because you didn't seem to. How did you get past that? The self-consciousness.
The cameras in the room and everything, you know.
Well, I'm going back to the first day of shooting in my apartment. I made a movie years earlier. I put one of the chapters of my book into film. I did it in Dallas, Texas. Someone wanted me to do this. Part of it was in the documentary.
We used clips of it.
So that was the only time that I actually was in a movie, kind of movie set. But now, here comes one of the great actors of all time into my apartment, and the cinematographer and Ramsey and their manager, and they set up the cameras and the lights and all the cables in my apartment. I couldn't even go to the bathroom. But I mean, I was dumbstruck. And Ethan said to me, "Are you nervous, Seymour?" I said, "Oh, and how?" He said, "Well, so am I." And but none of us knew how it was going to proceed, right?
Right.
So Ethan said, "Go to the piano, play something spiritual for me." So I did. He said, "What is it that you played?" That first shot, none of it was used in the documentary. I think he was just warming me up. After 3 days of this, it was like the most natural thing that I ever did. I felt comfortable with him, of course, and I loved the guys that were his cameraman and the light man and so forth. We all had lots of fun together, and I was so intrigued by this man. He never told me what was going to happen until it happened. So one day, I'm sitting at the piano, and Ethan goes into the corner of my room and he says to me, "Seymour, I want you to practice for your recital and talk out loud." I said, "Ethan, I don't talk out loud when I practice." "But do you talk to yourself?" "Yeah, I do." "Well, can't you do it out loud?" That's how the documentary started. When I saw that for the first time, it was in a screening room similar to this, I burst into tears. I said, "Ethan, that's amazing." And Michael Kimmelman was sitting right in front of me. He said, "Will you shut up? I'm listening to your movie." So that's how it all started. It became very natural
And so it was.
Inspiring to me.
I'm also aware that we just watched this film, and we heard him speaking and with other people, and we also heard music all the time. And I was aware that I could hear both. I didn't find the music inappropriate or intrusive. I didn't mind when he spoke over it. Who picked the music? You chose the music that was being played all through the film.
I did not. He did.
Well, somebody did.
Do you realize how amazed I was? I never heard that music until I saw the first screening. He did all of this research. He read all of my books. Did you hear how the movie ended?
Yes.
And I speak, I never dreamt that with my own 2 hands I could touch the sky. That's the front page of my book. He read that. Oh my goodness, this is, see, I have goosebumps. But you're so, I think that he created a masterpiece. I know I'm part of it. I'm an important part of it, right? But he created a masterpiece.
Well, it's rare that you see two sides of the coin so clearly in balance, so that we've gotten, it's appropriate that we're here together, that you're doing this together because you're inseparable from the gift that you've given us, which is insights into both the art itself, the language of the art, and the gentle observer who knows how to reach in and get it. It's astonishing. We have just a few minutes left. Does anybody here have a question you'd like to ask any of these? I don't want to exclude you. Yes.
How many days of filming?
How many days? How long did it take?
2.5 years.
It was it would basically be my job. It was one of those things from when we first started talking about it. We would think a lot before we did film. We didn't film that many days. I don't remember how many, but it would be like, okay, Seymour's doing a master class at NYU on X day, and I would try to read, I would read his books, and I would be acting in something, and I knew that, okay, well, I'm not available for that teaching, but he's doing another teaching when the movie ends, and we just kind of pieced it together. And to be honest with you, that's what's mysterious about documentaries, is I could have done it for a lot longer. But you start to get a sense of, okay, that I've spent enough money. My wife's a frugal woman, and so that there's like, and so she was basically like, it's time for you to start editing this and see where we are. And the funny thing was, I would love to share this because it's so strange how it happened. I had a fancy editor that I'd worked with who was very expensive, and we were getting nowhere. And I had an assistant and a woman who I'd asked to cut together a trailer to raise some more money, to try to raise some more money. And she cut together this little 5-minute trailer without my help at all. And I said, that's the movie. I wanted a mosaic.
Yeah,
I invited her here.
Is Anna here?
Anna?
Is she here? No, I don't think so. I don't see
She
her.
never showed up.
But Anna, and so what I did is I stopped working at the other end. And I said, this is a great 5-minute trailer. You know what, unfortunately the trailer needs to be 15 minutes.
Oh my God.
And I said to Anna, make me a 15-minute trailer for the movie. She was like, okay. It was great. It was like the movie started to take shape of what it was. And I said to her, all right, you know what? I think we're going to go to, and it wasn't lying. I was thinking I might do this. I'm going to take like a 30-minute version of this trailer, and I'm going to take it to a film festival to raise some more money. So let's do that. It was basically like the mosaic idea started, and I started just like, having a conversation and stopping that conversation. Right when it got really interesting, so that you're on the hook, and then starting another conversation, and then go back to the other conversation, and then go back, and so it kind of had a flow like music.
Sure did.
It had a bridge and a verse and a verse and a bridge and a chorus, and it would return to the theme of the concert, and then I said, all right, you're hired. We're gonna make the movie together, and then we basically made an 1.5-hour trailer for the movie. That was kind of that became the movie. Yeah. And it was a lot cheaper.
Did you learn anything that you didn't know? I mean, you're in the position of giving to all of us insight and valuable information that changes not only the way one plays or the way one listens, but certainly the way one lives. What did you get out of this, young man?
Well, I concluded that's when I realized that one of the goals in life is to learn to love yourself. And so before you ask questions from the audience, there are students from the Manor School here, and I have a message for them. You have to start at around this age to learn how do you learn to love yourself? What do you do to learn to love yourself? And I realized during the making of this film, around this period, that the most important thing is to find challenges, accept them, that when they're given to you, or create them yourself. Meet those challenges until you fulfill them. Then when you fulfill, the students know when they practice properly, they can play a certain passage, and they learn how to do it. When they learn how to do it, there's a feeling of taking yourself around and saying, you're pretty good. That was pretty beautiful. And one challenge after another through life, and you learn to love yourself.
I just had a thought as you were talking that it's so wonderful to have you here, because in a way, one time I was rehearsing a play, and Jack said to me that I didn't know anything about playing the piano, but he said that you can't play fast until you can play slow, and that you're having all this emotion and you're having all these thoughts about the way you want to play it, but you don't know it yet. And
Do you know what Clifford Curzon always said about that? Listen to this. This is so great. I have to repeat it twice. Fast playing is slow playing faster.
That's right.
Now what that means is
it's what Jack was saying.
you have to play slowly with the same ingredients that the fast is, right? But you just do it slower.
That's right.
And then if you learn to do it slower, then you just do the same thing faster.
But if you don't have the fingering, and I think in some strange way, that when you gave me that bit of direction, my brain just poured over. I thought about it a lot. So I think that when I met Seymour, the idea that I could learn about acting from watching somebody practice playing the piano had started with you. And so it's kind of fun to get to be here, bringing it all around.
It's lovely. Well, I'm going to end this with, if I can, I think this is right, with a quote from Shakespeare. I hope I get it right, because it's appropriate. After the songs of Apollo, the words of Mercury are harsh. You that way, we this way. Thank you.